Hello everyone, I hope you're well. Warm welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you for joining me. I only have a small amount of time sometimes, so the Thrinchies are a perfect way to create something, and this little book stays on my desk or in my trolleys continually because I can just look at it and it inspires so much. It gives me so many ideas. Now this one is nearly full. You may have a couple more pages than me because I had to stick a couple of pages together because I just sort of missed a group of pages. So this is Thrinchie 66, and when did we create? I think I did a project. Don't know whether it was a Thrinchie or another project. And I had these Thrinchies where I used the translucent texture paste and I added some shavings from my distress brush my woodless pencils, the distress watercolour pencils, and I added some of the shavings into the texture paste. And I love how I had these little bits left over. So I've obviously got those little bits I can use on another project. But I've got sort of a couple of, so we could add a Thrinchie here and a Thrinchie here, and then we've got the book cover to do, and then that's like the Thrinchie book completed. I just love it, and I like mine because it's quite bulky. I know some people have extended theirs, but I quite like it like this because I can also open it out on my desk and I can have it like a star book as well, and I can just pick one page and take inspiration from that. I just fancy something nice and simple this time around, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. Now you can add your black outlining now if you wish, before you do any project at all. I'm going to take my background SS31 stencil, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some low tack tape. So let me just take some of that low tack tape. My desk is sort of clean, not brilliantly clean, that's all I'm going to say. And then I'm going to turn that round. I'm just going to add a little bit of low tack tape just at the back, just to hold that in place. And then I'm going to place my distress background. It's got the text on there to tell you what the stencil is, so it's up to you which way round you have that. And I'm just holding the Thrinchie down because the Thrinchie is smaller than the stencil, and I've got it at a slight angle just so that you can see that. Where shall we have this? So let's have this there we go. So I'm just holding the stencil in place onto the non-stick craft sheet, and I'm holding the Thrinchie in place with a piece of low tack tape. So I've got my little mini ink pads out. I'm just smitten with the little minis. So I'm going to take mustard seed. So I'll take a little bit of mustard seed, and I'm just going to add a little bit of the mustard seed. There we go. Then I'm going to take a little bit of the spiced marmalade. So let's take a little bit of the spiced marmalade. We'll add that in there. So we'll just take a little bit of that spiced marmalade and go into our yellow colour. I love the simplicity of blending. It's just wonderful. Then we want a bit of pink. So let's use picked raspberry. Just take a little bit of the picked raspberry. I just find these simple techniques so pleasing because you get wonderful results because you've got quality products and the results are wonderful. If you prefer the inks, you can use the inks. Then I'm going to use a little bit of red. So let's use Lumberjack Plaid. I love the smooth blend of the Spit It Out Tracy oxides. I'm just going to add another layer of the red colour, just so it's a little bit deeper. Then we'll go back to the picked raspberry again, and we'll just add a little bit more of the pink. And then I'm going to add, excuse me, I've got one of them little tickly sort of cough things. Then I'm going to use seedless preserves. Let's take seedless preserves. And we'll just add the seedless preserves here towards the bottom. Now you can go over the colours again if you wish and just make those colours richer and more vibrant should you wish. Okay, so I'm then going to, are you going to spritz? Yes, I am. I'm going to spritz, let's move this out of the way. Just spritz the card, and also that means that I have spritzed the stencil as well. So if we lift that up, and I've then got the water on the stencil, let's spritz that a little bit more. And what I can do is I can place this. If you're not sure where you want to aim it, like me, take the Thrinchie to the stencil. So then I can just pinpoint exactly where I want that. And I'm just going to let that soak onto there a few moments. And then we've got another little background on there that we can use. And you've still got lots of colour on here. So let's just move that into the bin. I've got another Thrinchie here. That one stayed in place because we added and you can just, so I'm lifting this card slightly because then I can aim the card exactly onto the stencil where I want it. So you can see that is more watery than this because it's been sprayed twice. This is the 3rd generation, the 2nd generation. So it's really wonderful to have that. If you've got spare pieces of card like this, you can then just spritz your ink with the water and just dab that up. Obviously be mindful that you don't mix the purples with the orangey yellows too much. But can you see I've now got another background that I could die cut something out of there. Now we've got our dies, woohoo! We can die cut something out of that. But I can mop up all this ink and then cut something. I can cut another Thrinchie out of that if I wish. I never tire of using inks, never. Let's just, so just clean your stencil. Let's just mop up our area because it's a little bit messy. Okay, I'm going to just spritz that a little bit more. And then I'm just going to dab that, just so we've got some small bleached out areas. And when Tracy spritzes, I spritz. In other words, it goes everywhere. That's it. So we've done Thrinchie 66. So this is 67 and 68. Just in case I didn't mention that, because I am really good at that kind of thing. So then which one do you want, Tracy? Let me just grab my stencil. So I want I'm looking at, no, that's the die. So go to the stencils, Tracy. Stencils. So it is that one. So I'm using stencil ST7. So ST7 6x6 stencil tag mix. And which way do you want that, Tracy? So shall we go that way? Or do you want that one? Do you like how Tracy can't make her mind up? No, we'll have the bigger one. There we go. So we'll just use that larger one. And then I'm just going to grab my micron pen, and I'm just going to just bring you a little bit down more. I'm just going to draw around the stencil. That is terrible. There we go. So I'm just going to draw around my stencil, and then I'm just going to add a little sort of squiggly line, just so it's a little bit more doodled. There we go. Then I'm just going to add some shading whilst we're here. So let's turn this round so that you can see this. So we're going to add a little bit of shading around here. There we go. Let's grab our little brush. And I love working on these small pieces. I find them great fun. The Pink Frog card. This is 300 GSM, our Thrinchies that I've got pre-cut out for you. It takes the moisture wonderfully, and it makes that look 3D. So we shall bring in have a look at your card now, out of the other two, which you want to use. You know, do you want to use the softer one, or do you want the one that's got definite, you know, the diamond diamond harlequin look? Decide which one you want to use. I'm finding that stencils now, I'm just loving them. I'm loving the stencils so much. So now I'm going to use my circular stencil, which is ST6. And I love mixing. I love doing this kind of thing. So are you going to add it there, do you think? Yes. Let's not go in that water because I'm good like that. So we'll go around the circle. Now, you don't have to be perfect because we're making it a little bit squiggly, so it's a little bit more, but not on that. Yes, I will. I'm just going to make it a little bit more doodly. Excuse me, I do apologise. Going to go round my circle. There we go. Then we'll take the moisture again, and let's just go around just to make that a little bit more 3D. And it works rather nicely. So we've created different kinds of spotlight with your stencils. I've always been obsessed with spotlights. That's just me. I've always been obsessed by them. So now at this stage, let's grab our copier paper. But look at this. Look at this background we've just mopped up on that card. Isn't it lovely? Oh, I just love things like that. And I love the fact that you're such a lovely community and you really do embrace the fact that I faff and everything, and it's lovely that you don't mind. I'm now going to take my black Posca pen and we'll just add, I knew I'd missed that bit there, but I wasn't convinced. And I'm doing this on copier paper just so that for me, there's less cleanup. I don't have to worry about the cleanup. So let's just go down here. So can you see my Posca pen? I need to just press that down a little bit. There we go. Just going over there a couple of times. That's it. So the black matte really sets that off. Just go down a little bit more. There we go. And even when you just add the smallest of borders, it works beautifully. So let's go round with that black. You'd have to ignore the noises behind me because I'm having some work done, so just ignore it. It's called Natural Home Life, and if I waited for everybody to finish works or whatever, I'd never get anything done. So I just carry on. There we go. Wonderful. So can you see now, you've got two different sort of spotlights there. You've got like the tag spotlight and you've got your circular spotlight. Now make sure your hands are clean, especially if, like me, you've touched the black Posca pen, which, you know, just takes a couple of seconds to dry. Now, I've not even decided what I'm going to use, but that is me all over. Where are you? I would like little doggies, I think. Let's just bring this in. That's it. So I'm just bringing all my new stamps in. And for this one, I want the dogs standing on there. So because it's my little Thrinchie book, I really do need to add pugs. I lost my little Mitzi girl who was 15. I lost her in March last year. Bless her, she was 15. She was just the best fur baby ever. Still got Poppy, bless her heart. So I still get lots of cuddles. Let me just make sure. No, I'm going to just add one. That's it. So we don't want that one. So I want you standing on there. So I'm going to take my black ink. So I'm going to take my Nocturne ink. And let's give that lots of tapping with that ink. And you can always make sure if you've got the ink coverage by just tilting your stamp, and you can see that ink shine on there. So then I'm going to add my little pug on here, and I'm just going to give that a little bit of time on there. Just be a little bit patient and just give that some time because you've got that oxide ink underneath there. So I'm just giving that a little bit of time to absorb on that surface. Oh, and I've got my little pug, look. Look, wonderful. Just wonderful. I love having all these little sort of stamps that you can do completely different themes, and it's just such a joy. I'm just going to put let's see. Now I'm just thinking to myself whether I'm adding anything else or not. Bear with me. Do I want a little bit of the flower? I know I want the magnifying glass. I want a little bit of text. So it's going to be, I'm mad on text. I do love a little bit of text. So I'm going to take TE45 that's got this text here. And again, that text all talks about the garden, so it's perfect, really. And I'm going to use it off the acrylic block, just so I can add little bits of the text in black. Now, because I'm using this off the acrylic block, you need to be mindful that you may get some of this on your hands. So just be mindful of that. That you may get a little bit of that on your hands. So if you do, just give that a wipe. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to add the, I don't want to add you. Let's take a little bit. So I'm taking TE45. I love to play with the acetate as well. This is why I end up with a million stamps out at the same time. So I just want to see how far down. Actually, that would be quite nice. Yes. So I'm going to use this stamp, and you can see that I was having a little play there to see about placement. I was getting the placement in my head. So I'm taking this from the TE45 stamp set, and I'm just knocking over the water and everything like that. Let's take can you see lots of tapping with that ink, and I'm no longer pressurized to be in a rush with everything. Let's bring some copier paper down, and again that will help us with less cleanup. There we go. So it'll just help with less cleanup, that will. So I'm just giving that a little bit of time, as always, just to absorb onto the surface of that card, because we've got that oxide ink on there. So just give that a little bit of time just to absorb onto the surface of the card. There we go. And it just means I don't have as much cleanup. Wonderful. And we can just blot our image because we've put that on top of the oxide. And then I'm going to take a little bit more of the shading just around here, just a little bit more of that shading. Where are we? And just bring a little bit more of that shading down there. That's it. Wonderful. And then we've got that many, I'm sure I just saw it on here that said friends. I'm sure I have. There. Do you know, I thought I'd seen it. So on this one, on the one with the pug on, which is TE56. You can see it says best friends here. So I just want the word friends on there initially. So I want another acrylic block. Don't overstretch your stamp. And at this stage, I'm just going to ink the friends word. I'm just going to add friends there. Like so. Now you don't need to press these at all. You just leave them there, just resting there. You don't need to press too hard. So I've got my friends on there. And then I'm just going to wipe this. As you can see, the best friends is going all in a sentiment, all one way. But I want to separate that so that I can fit it in my piece. I'm then going to stamp the best. And then I'm going to add best. Again, I don't need to press hard. So now I've got best friends. Just because I've done it all one way doesn't mean I can't do it that way. So that it fits rather nicely. So can you see that? It fits quite nicely. You can also see on your dog where you can add some touches of white should you wish. So I don't know whether I've still got my gel pen. Let's see if it's still working. You can use your bleed proof white, whatever you wish, but you can add sort of little touches of white just on your pug. It's entirely up to you if you add some touches of white or not. We obviously want to add little touches of white just to this, just so that that stands out a little bit more. There we go. So just add those pops of white. Because it just lifts that, just lifts it nicely. You can also add a little bit of shading to the odd shape that you've got in the background. So if you want to add a little bit of dimension just to a couple of the little patterns in the background, you can also add that to a couple of them in the background as well. So let's pick that water up. And then you can just add a little bit of a blend. Now, if you want to, you could easily just add a little tiny picture of your fur baby if you wanted to. So let's just give that a little bit of shading. So it's up to you how many of the background pieces you want to highlight and whether you want to highlight those or not. It's entirely up to you. There we go. Let's just mop that. Then we're going to add some splatters because I can't resist. So let's add some splatters. And if you're worried about your wording, you can either steer clear of that, a bit like I'm doing, or just cover it over slightly, just so that you can see. So you can cover that over slightly. So let's bring in our little Thrinchie book. So I can add my, it's actually, I've got this, you see, so let's just remove that. And let's add my adhesive. we go. So let's take this. And we'll just add some adhesive all the way around just to make that a little bit easier. Now I'm on the last page, as you can see. So there's a little bit of a curve to that. So I'm just going to make sure that that all sticks down nicely. And if again you're a little bit worried, use your copier paper. Let's use the page underneath, and you can just, there we go. Just because obviously I'm on the last page now. Let's make sure that that is stuck down. That's stuck down lovely. And then I can have my last Thrinchie on here as well. And I'm not going to, you could just add a piece to this, but I'm not. I'm just going to embrace what is there. Yes, I'm just going to embrace what is there. So let's bring this in. Just move that out of the way. So we've got our circular piece here. And then I'm going to take this little dog here to sit in the circle. So let's take that one. And you can see I just lose myself in the whole process. So again, lots of tapping because you've got that silhouette element. And then we'll just have him sitting on here. And you've used both backgrounds that you've created from your distress. So let's just give that a little bit of time. So you've got like a twofer. Let's just give that a little bit of time. There we go, just perfect. It's just about giving that some time just to absorb on there. Again, I'll just clean those hands. And again, it's up to you whether you just add some white bits with your pen. Or not, it's entirely up to you. So just take a little bit of time. And what I'm trying to do is not go over the top, if you know what I mean, with my pieces. So I'm just trying not to go over the top with the white. I'm then going to take the TE58 Framed Delights. Let's take a little bit of that salvia. And again, I always like to have sort of a play with the acetate. It really helps. So then I can just add a little bit of the salvia just to here, which works rather nicely. Just need a little bit bigger acrylic block because this is quite a big stamp, but this time let's take a little bit of the sponge sugar. So I'm going to take a little bit of sponge sugar. I can see there's still some ink on there. A little bit of sponge sugar, so a nice pale pinky colour. I can go down to the leaves because I'm going to come off this page anyway. So a little bit of the pink. So that is sponge sugar. I'm then going to take a little bit of picked raspberry. and just sort of pinpoint a few of the areas. Just dab a few of the areas with that pink. So that's with picked raspberry. Then we'll have a little bit, move out of the way, a little bit of the seedless preserves. So let's have a little bit of the seedless preserves. And you can see I'm just having a little bit of fun. I'm then going to spritz this with water. One spritz only. Then I'm going to decide where I would like, let's have it around about there. So this is just going to be in the background. There we go. So I've got my salvia in the background. So just a background element. Then I'm going to take all that, oh, nice bit of squeakiness there. I'm going to take all that ink off, as you can see. You can just see that in the background. And then, let's just grab a little bit of kitchen towel. And then I'm going to stamp. Do I want the little one? Let's grab the little salvia. So if you look at TE 58, there's the smaller salvia on there. And you definitely don't need an acrylic block that big. Just grab that smaller acrylic block. We'll then ink that with our black ink. Love this flower. And we can just add a little bit of that salvia there. I could have covered my non-stick craft sheet up. Just give that a bit of time just on there. And you can see even when I'm using my nocturne, I don't rush that process. Just lovely. So you can see a little bit of that on there. Again, we can just blot this just because we're on that oxide background. Nothing much comes off there, so that's fine. We can then take the salvia wording. Remember the right wording this time, Tracy, because I placed the word iris on a card instead of salvia. So we take the salvia. Sometimes I get so engrossed. Take that salvia. And we can add this here. Like so. Again, I'm just cleaning my hands just each time to make sure I don't make a mess of that. I'm just going to make this a little bit darker, like you do. Let's just make that a little bit darker. Now, if you wanted to, you could have stamped the dog and then added the circle afterwards. So you could have stamped him and then drew the circle afterwards. So I didn't do that because it's just easy to have my placement of the circle. So I'm just adding a little bit of black there. There we go. So let's bring in our little piece. We can then add this to our back piece of card. You could add a white piece of card if you wish. So this isn't pure white. If you look, the pages are not pure white on there. You could use a bit, I think, the watercolour if you wish, but I'm just sticking with the book. Let's add can then add this here, like so. And we have the numbers to add to our Thrinchies as well. So we've been using the TE36 numerical cats to number. As you can see, I think I'm going to have to bring out some smaller numbers for when we get up to 100. 6, 5, 6, 6. So it's 67 and 68, these Thrinchies are. And obviously we will decorate our front and back covers. So for your front and back covers, have a look, like I've got spare pieces. Have a look if you want to use any of your spare pieces that you've just created with for your front cover. You know, it's entirely up to you. Or the piece that we have created, can you see here where we did this background? So we could add, let's just move that to one side. So we could take this, we could take the text background that we used. Let's just clean this up, because I'm going to put some distress oxides on there. I don't really want the black coming through. So we could use some of the colours we've used in the background. So for instance, you could use the picked raspberry. So take a little bit of picked raspberry. You could add a little bit of lumberjack plaid on there. And then you could add a little bit of the seedless preserves on there. And then we can add, because we can cut this up, so we can add a little bit of text. So you've got first, second and third generation text that you've added on there. So let's just place this back. So as you can see, excuse me, I'm just having a play. So where is my little stencil again? So this is the bit where we just mopped up some of the colour. So we can then come in and we've got the seedless preserves. We could pick up the seedless preserves and you can add more layers to this. So we can just add more layers with the seedless preserves. We can then come in, let's pick another colour. Let's pick lumberjack plaid. So we can take our lumberjack plaid. And I can cut this piece up then. So just adding extra layers to this background. Shall we have some, let's grab another piece of card. So if you've got any extra bits of card, I'm sure I have somewhere. Move this out of the way, and then you can even spritz your card with the water. And let's lay our background down. Again, have some of that kitchen roll. And I can just create something that's like a masterboard, really, where you're creating extra pieces, like so. You create in extra bits and pieces. I can then, because I won't get any contamination, I can then add a little bit of mustard seed. Let's take mustard seed And then I can add a little bit of mustard seed. So you can see that you can keep layering that, and we can keep doing this. So we can then have all your brushes in the way, spritz your card or your stencil, whichever, and then it's like creating a little masterboard as well. So we can create our piece, because then you can quite easily cut that up. So let's bring this in again, and then we'll add a little bit of the text from TE45. We'll take, come on Tracy, a little bit of black ink. Let's take a little bit of that black ink and just add little touches of the black ink here and there. You could quite easily turn this into a 4x6 piece, which could be a card. I'm not going to do that. So let's just move these out of the way so we've got a bit of space with the cutting. So if I bring in, it's hilarious. If I bring in the smallest cutter on the planet, it's my old cutter. And what you can decide then is, so first of all, I can take off some of the white area. So I don't want this all white area. So I'm cutting, which you shouldn't do, on top of an acrylic block. There we go. So I've cut off some of that white area. And now if I cut that 4 inches, so 4 inches. It's because I've not got a sturdy surface to work on. That's all it is. So 4, and then let's have 4. Isn't 4x4. What are you doing, woman? So 4. It's because I'm so used to doing 3x3 inch pieces that yes, it is going to be too big. So let's do 3.5. 3.5. And don't bin these little strips, because you could easily create art with them. So 3.5 by 3.5. And you can see this is how I play. So let's bring in our pages that we've just done. And then this, I've made it 3.5 by 3.5 for my front cover. So let's do that. If I put anything on the back cover, I'd probably put some matte medium over, or my distress. Oh, I'll show you. What does this measure? Honestly, I don't bin anything. 3.5 there. And then 3.5 here. Right, let's see what we've got now. Let's move this wonderfully small cutter out of the way. And I love to have a little bit of creative time with you. I'm supposed to be washing pots today. And I mean pots outside, not pots in the sink, before you think I've gone stark raving mad. So, the front cover, I can add this and decide what image I'm going to add on there. So I'm still going to put a black border around. So let's put a black border around here. There we go. And again, I'm just using the copier paper mainly because of cleanup. That is the only reason. And you can see sometimes I go over a couple of areas twice. Now, I still may use this. It's only got half of it printed on. There we go. I keep missing one little bit. There we go. And again. Wonderful. So let's move our messy piece of paper. So this is going to be my front cover, like so. But I don't stick that down until I've decided what I want to do. So I've made the front cover. So we've got all these Thrinchies that we add inside that is 3 by 3 inches, look. If you want to add 3 by 3 inches, which is smaller, that's fine. So that's your 3 by 3 inches, but I've done 3.5 by 3.5. So it's entirely up to you whether you do that or not. That's your choice. So let me just see. I don't know why I'm just leaving the book here, because we're not working on the book. So I'm thinking, as the frame just fits on there beautifully, doesn't it? Just fits absolutely beautifully. So let's stamp the frame on there. Like so. Now you've got quite a big stamp. So we'll just make sure that we can just add that to a large acrylic block. Now you've got quite a large stamp on there, so lots of tapping. Tap, tap, tap. And I'm going to add this to my Thrinchie. Well, it's not a Thrinchie, it's the cover. 3.5 by 3.5. And we've created this from like a little masterboard we created, really. So I'm just giving that a little press, because I've not dried anything. I'm just working straight onto the card. Just giving that a little bit of time, mainly because of the size of the stamp. Just brilliant. So let me show you. I've stamped onto oxides, and I think that is pretty good personally. Onto oxides, just wonderful. Now I'm sure this is where I haven't checked. Did I do one? Yes, I did. Here's my little folder for my masks. I've got another folder with masks in as well because it's full. And I cut out the frame piece. I cut out the centre. So now I can add in there any imagery that I would like. So that's quite handy. I can add anything in there that I wish. And the problem is, Tracy's got so many stamps out now, it's just madness. So let's spend just a couple of minutes just moving a couple of stamps. You see, I spend my life just thinking, I go to put a stamp away And then I'm like, oh, just a minute. So this is TE45 again. But look at that. Yes, yes, yes. I love it. So we're using that. So I go to put a stamp away, which is TE45. It doesn't always have to be just about the new release. I adore the new releases. I get excited over them. But it's also my place to show you that don't just think about the new releases. There we go. Let's just clean up a little bit. We've got bits of ink everywhere. Shall we grab some low-tack tape? And me actually finding scissors is a miracle because I've now got so much of a pile of stuff now that you can't find anything because Tracy's doing 20 things at once. So let's grab our frame and let's just place that down a little bit. We're going to ink our lovely stamp now. And I'm going to ink, if I move this out of the way, you might actually see what I'm doing. I'm going to ink the whole stamp because that's far easier than trying to aim it by just, oh, I'll just dot that bit of ink there. Just ink the whole thing. Again, use a piece of copier paper underneath if you don't want to clean up too much mess. It's all about process and procedures and good procedures and techniques that give you wonderful results. So you're now going to spend ages, aren't you, Tracy, just deciding where this is going. It's going there. Okay. So this is going to be my front cover. Now this mask is made out of copier paper, so there's no ridge on there. So that'll work really nicely. But just give it, where your frame comes here, just give it a little press, just around that circular oval area. Not very good with my circles and my ovals. And again, you don't have to curl anything, just allow it to do its thing. Patience, it's just patience. And that will give you the results. Okay, so let's lift this up. There we go. We then lift this. I absolutely adore it. We'll add some colour as well. But look at this. Let me show you this. Look at there. So I could put some, dry it a little bit, put some matte medium over, and you could put that on a card, couldn't you? Just little things amuse. Little things. So I'm going to add a little bit of colour to this. Again, not much room to let's make sure we've not got sort of ink sitting on there. No, there's not much on there at all. And we can add a little bit of colour to these pieces here. Oh, gorgeous. Now, what I would recommend, because I am going to do a bit of colouring? Yes, I am. So what have I got plugged in here? Let's just give this a little waft dry, mainly because I'm just going to do a little bit of Prismacolor, and I don't want it to pick up that black. So let's get some nice bright colours, and we know that colour is going to be involved because it's one of my lovely colours I love. I also like that and that. Okay, none of them are sharpened, they should be, but I'm going to use Crimson Red which I'm soon not going to be able to tell you what colour it is because I'm nearly, but it is, it's crimson red. So let's take a little bit of the crimson red and just add a little bit of the crimson red. I'm then going to take Process Red, which is 994. I love this colour. So just going to take a little bit of that colour. And you can see I'm not pressing on very hard. And a little bit of Hot Pink, which is 993. I will go through those colours again. So we're going to come with the Crimson Red, 924. A little bit of the Crimson Red. Then we're going to go to the Process Red, which is 994. And with that Process Red, you go into the Crimson. Then you're going to use the Hot Pink. So let's add a little bit of that Hot Pink. So you're adding a little bit of definition. Where's that coming from? Oh, because I've leaned on the stamp. Let's make sure we haven't got any of that anywhere. I was nicely leaning on the stamp there because I was so engrossed. So then we'll come to the Crimson Red again. Just add a little bit more of the Crimson Red. Then we'll come to the Process Red, which is more pinky. Then you're going to come to the Hot Pink. So you're highlighting a few of these areas, and then I've got a lovely, have I got a circle here? Have you? Let's just not touch that at the moment. I'm just going to add another layer. Crimson Red. Then we'll come to the Process Red. Then we'll come to our Hot Pink. We're going to add touches of white as well, but that just gives it a little bit more emphasis, doesn't it? A little bit more brightness. Now, let me just see what area I've got there. It's only part of a circle, isn't it? But you know, I'm going to add a little bit of colour. So I'm going to use the Crimson Red. So a little bit of crimson, then Process Red. Then Hot Pink. Then we'll repeat the process. Crimson Red. And you know, I'm really enjoying my creative time at the moment. I just am. I love it. Then we're going to use the Process Red. And come into the previous colour. Then we're going to come into the Hot Pink, and let's just clean my brush. This is a pencil, Tracy, that's got black off that stamp. So I'm going to come in with the Hot Pink and just come in to the previous colours with that Hot Pink. Then I'm going to repeat it again. Crimson. Adding those light layers, filling in the white gaps on your card very gently and slowly. Then we come into the process red. Then we're going to come to the hot pink. Into the other colours. And then what I'm going to do, oh, didn't pull it out, Tracy, is I'm going to grab, is it you? It's normally, yes, I'm then going to grab lemon yellow, which is PC915. And then I'm, as you can see, I think my pencil is broke. Could do with not sharpening that at the moment. So we'll just make do. I'm just adding a little bit of yellow just into, you know, sometimes I add white with the pencil, and this time I'm just using a little bit of yellow. A broken yellow pencil as well at that. And I bet you I put it back in the packaging and don't sharpen it. So I've just added a little bit of yellow there because it just lifts that quite nicely. Then we can see, what did you do with that, Tracy? Oh, it's there. Let's see if I do like my bleed proof white. I do find the gel pens a bit sort of clumpy with the white. I don't know whether it's going to, on the waxy base. I'll just keep writing on the back of this piece of card. I'm just sort of adding a few little touches of the white just to bring out a bit of that detail. And I don't like to, I've got these in my little tray, so I thought, you know, I'm going to use them. So I've got a little bit of white on there. Just add a little bit more. I do love adding touches of white. I'm then going to add a little bit of shading just around the frame, just at the bottom here, just so that it's just got a little bit more depth. And I can tell I'm getting carried away now. I'm just losing myself. So let's blend that so that we've got a little bit more. Oh yes, that definitely lifts it a little bit more. Gives it a little bit more dimension. This is an Inktense pencil. Inktense reacts with water and is permanent when dry. You can also use on fabric. It's called Chinese ink. I think it's 2030. But look at this little bit of, does that dry eventually when you use your heat tool? Ah, I could have embossed it, couldn't I? Could have embossed it with clear embossing powder. Yeah, so it's still not dry, but I could have embossed that with clear embossing powder. What happens if you see, I shouldn't do this. What happens if you do this? Because then I keep you for 9 hours. Let's place that on there. But I'm going to do it anyway. I've got this clear gloss. There's a clear matte as well, but let's just use what I've got. Let's just tip that off there. Now you can see I'm just having a play. Let's heat this now. Because then it'll be transparent. Obviously you could do this on vellum. Okay. And will take forever just to... I'm going to end up ripping it in half now. There we go. So then you've got that embossed on there. All this. But it's lessons how to create your own embellishment, isn't it? Because this is now see-through. I'm going to take forever. So this is now see-through. So if I grab, bear with me. My Distress Collage medium. I can't get the lid open. You know why Tracy can't get the lid open, don't you? Because she's left things, there you go, on the lid. There we go, come on. I'm not wasting anything, look, it's in the lid. That's it. So if you struggle like that, it's because you've got gunk around here. But let's decide where we're putting it first. So I've got a transparent layer. It's going to take me forever now to decide where I'm putting the damn thing. There. Yeah. So I'm taking a little bit of the Distress Collage medium. And if I place that on the top, then dab the Distress Collage medium over the top. It means it'll just stay on there. And I'm going to put some Distress Collage medium over the front cover anyway. So let's just add our, let's have a look. Change my mind. So I'm now just going to cut the transparent number out. And I'm going to take forever. And obviously you could do this with vellum, and if you use the tiniest bit of Distress Collage matte medium, like I keep doing, like so, I'm going to add it there. Don't be afraid to change your mind. Oh yes, I prefer that, and now I've got a transparent layer. Small things, small things. So I'm just going to leave that out because I am going to use everything that's in the lid. Now, let's get another stamp set out. I now want TE54 because it's got the word Thrinchies on there. Can you see now why it takes me so long to clean up? So, add that there. Take the word Thrinchies. And you can see I'm just playing. I'm not looking at the time. I'm not clock watching. So we've got these strips of card, haven't we? So why don't we use one of them? So we'll stamp the word Thrinchies. And I want it sort of going down the side, so I need a bit of space at the top. I don't even know whether I don't think I've stamped that straight, but there you go. So then, need me bigger scissors. Let's just cut this. Let me bring in my front cover. There's not any room to put anything. This is my front cover, isn't it? Yeah. Just bring in your front cover, like so. Let's just see if there's room. So place that on there then, Tracy. That's it, yes. So I'm going to place the adhesive on here. And I've done what I tell you not to do. Don't leave that out there drying. And then we're going to add that like so, so that it's added on there. Okay, then we can adhere this to the front cover. Let's adhere that to the front cover. Just bring it down a bit so the Thrinchies does or is on there. And if you don't want to, I was going to say use your copier paper. I think the copier paper is dirtier than anything. Just use your copy paper. If you don't want to put your hands all over your project, just make sure that you press that down just so it makes good contact, which this glue does. Just make sure that makes good contact. Oh, love that transparent layer. Then let's give this some Posca. It doesn't matter now if it goes on your book, because it's your front cover and you want it to be a part of the project. Okay, let's just give that a little waft dry. Just give that a waft dry, and you get all excited because it's looking good. Then we're going to grab, oh, please tell me it's on the top somewhere. So I'm going to put some matte medium on here now, and that's to protect it so that my cover stays reasonably clean. Just going to clean the top of that. Now, matte medium is wet. What have we put on here? We've put Distress Oxide. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little bit. Could do with not digging my fingernails in there if I'm honest, because it's... So let's take a little bit. You don't need much. So I'm using Distress Glaze. So let's pick that up. And what I like to do is sort of work it into my fingers a little bit. So can you see there? I'm just working it into my fingers a little bit. So what that means is that the oxide background won't move when I add the Distress. This Distress Collage Medium Matte. So if I grab a soft brush, and you hope that you've got a soft brush, please tell me I've got a soft brush. Nice flat one would be nice. Chance it'd be a fine thing. a nice soft brush. Bear with me while I just look for a nice soft brush. Is that soft? Oh, that's not bad actually. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take what I've got in the lid, because why not? And then I'm just going to lightly add a little bit of the matte medium all over, just so that it's then protected. You only need a thin layer, so don't just leave clumps on there. That's it. Oh, there's a nice hair there, look. There we go. So now I've got that protected. Just leave that there. Now I don't really want to put much on the back. Make sure that's stuck down. I don't really want to put much on the back because that's what your book is leaned on, if you know what I mean. It's just so that it looks like you've done something. So I'm not going to add much to this apart from this, as you can see. So I'm going to add the word Thrinchies. I don't want to add much to this at all. Now let's add the word Thrinchies. Because the back, that will be resting on the surface of your desk or whatever. So let's just give this a little dry. We'll then add this to our back cover. So let's add this to our back cover. And we created the front and back cover really from leftovers from the Thrinchies we created. So again, you can open your back cover so that it's easier for you to place that on. And at this stage, try not to get any dirty fingerprints on here, especially because you're going to add your matte medium. So just don't get any fingerprints on there. Just make sure that you've got that adhered down. You can then take a little bit of your Distress Glaze, the tiniest bit, and just add that over here. You just need a little bit. You're not putting big clumps on there, so it's a greasy mess. Let's put our adhesive back. Just because I'm faffing so much, I'm not concentrating, and I don't want to leave that out. We'll then take our Distress Collage medium again. Why I've got it everywhere, I do not know. There we go. And then I can just use what's in my lid and just protect my book as well. So it's entirely up to you how you protect your book. Didn't put quite enough glaze on that one. There we go. So I'm just adding a little bit as well, just around the book, particularly if you're going to keep it as well. or even if you were giving it away to anybody. It's just protecting it a little bit. Now you need to make sure that you rinse that out, because you don't want that to become dry. So then you've got your front and back covers, which I now can't close at the moment because I want that Distress Collage Matte Medium to dry. You can actually dry this with a heat tool. So you can actually dry those with a heat tool. So that's just touch dry then. It works quite well. Almost touch dry. It just means then I can show you the book. So you've done your Thrinchies 67 and 68, which I will put the numbers on, but you don't need to watch me put the numbers on. So that's your 67 and 68. But we need a little bit of black text on there, don't we? Just a little bit on here. So we'll use the text from TE 45. And we're just going to add a little bit of text, just to bring in a little bit of, there we go, lovely, just a little bit of text to that. Now it's finished. I said that and then I'm just going to do something else, but I'm looking for that little tiny pencil, which you know is so small. There it is. Just need to ground him a little bit more. There we go. Just because I'm a little bit particular. That wasn't the brush that I was using. There it is. So let's take a little bit of water. He just needs grounding a little bit more. We can't have him floating, or I can't have him floating. So you've got your 67 and 68 Thrinchies, and you've then got your front, I love that transparent layer, and back covers, which you just want them to dry. So you'll find that it's at a stage where it's a little bit sort of tacky, but you want it to be fully dry before you sort of place this down, but it's protected then. So I love that. And I love how this mirror really worked, or this frame worked with the TE45. You can also then, you see what I mean by you can keep going back and adding. Now Inktense goes on most surfaces, but I've already added a protective layer on here. So I don't know. It should be when I dry it. There we go. We had a bit of shading under there. And then if I just dry that a bit, because then that will be permanent. There we go. And that is today's little bit of creative play. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and I hope you'll give that a go. And then you've got your lovely Thrinchie book in whatever book you've got it in, and it's a source of inspiration. And then I've got my next book ready for my next project. So love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.